I want to start this video off with a cool little fact, but this April was the first time in 70 years where the Pons-Brooks comet was visible to the eye from Earth. It is a mint green colored comet that resembles the comet that we see in the final double-page spread of the last chapter of Houseki no Kuni that just released this past week. Knowing Ichikawa and her background, this is almost definitely something that she knew of and probably influenced the scheduling for this final chapter, even though a lot of other circumstances definitely played a part in it. And I think it's something that just makes the ending even more beautiful and cosmically meaningful. I don't know, it's just a cool little fact I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe it means nothing to you, maybe it means everything to you. Just a really cool thing that I think relates heavily to the chapter and to Ichikawa's love for astronomy. Anyways, that's everything relating to that. On to the video. You know, there's always some sort of bittersweet feeling that follows you when a story that you've been following for a while, whether it be a TV show, a manga, a movie series, maybe even a series of novels, finally reaches its much needed conclusion. When something so important to your life that you can't imagine the person you'd be without it just stops. The story just ends. It's over. There's nothing left. Go away, it's all done now. Move on. It just feels odd because you've been following the story for such a long time that even when you come to terms with the fact that it's all going to be over soon, by the time it does come around, it still doesn't feel right. You wait a while, so used to the usual release of your favorite chapter, and there's just nothing left to release. Nothing left to read, nothing left to cover. No new grounds, no story left to tell. And well, I've gone on for long enough about this. As the title suggests, I'm clearly talking about the Land of the Lustrous, aka Houseki no Kuni, which has just released their 108th and final chapter, thereby confirming all the Buddhist 108 theories. It's pretty interesting how some popular fan predictions can just come true like it's nothing. Like, no one even knew the final chapter was going to be 108 until 106 came out, literally 2 chapters before the conclusion. We all knew it was ending soon, but there was still no date set in stone until we were already just 40 pages away from the finish, which is pretty crazy, honestly. As my subscribers may know, I've already posted my review of the final chapter by the time this video is being uploaded, so this isn't going to be a strict rundown or review of that chapter, rather than just a reflection on the series and what it's meant to me over the brief time that I've been with it. As even though I haven't been into the series as long as many longtime fans, in the short time I've gotten to experience it through, I've grown a lot with the series and I've had so much to discover, reflect on, and digest because of it. And I truly do think this series has played a part in my progression as a person in recent memory. So I want to give it one last video, a special reflection before saying goodbye to the story for good. I first started reading the series in the summer of 2022. Funnily enough, the final arc was still going on at that time because chapters release as often as the solar eclipse. I was still fairly new as a reviewer and inexperienced in my analysis skills back then, which I still am, but I have improved since, and so my initial review back then was a lot more, well, it was very rough to say the least. I was still in love with the series, however, I was still unable to scratch a lot of the deeper and personal meanings of the series out for myself because I still followed a lot of the more conventional and monotonous ways of viewing art and media. Now it's 2024, and over time I've learned to accept art for its imperfections and to even cherish them and view series like this holistically. I made a lot of silly errors such as comparing it to Attack on Titan, which yes, you can draw parallels to, but it was a very surface level comparison as these series are subtextually entirely different things and deliver their messages and themes in far different ways. Over time I began to have disdain for such comparisons and only wanted to look at stories through the lens that they themselves fit in with nothing else put next to it, which I find to be the best way to view art as a whole, and still do. Houseki no Kuni is my favorite manga of all time, though it did take a while for it to grow to that. The journey and story of Foss is one of the most visually and psychologically intriguing tales I've discovered in the scope of manga, especially in fantasy, as I've never seen a character explored with the type of introspect and immortality and identity struggles that I've seen with Foss. They're so unique in both concept and delivery, which is why I find the series to be one of a kind. I fell in love with so many things in the series that only continued to grow as it went on. Ichikawa's art style was always beautiful to me, but I began to deeply appreciate and connect with her amazing use of white space and the contrast of black and white that perfectly makes use of the style in which manga is drawn and shaded. Her lighting work is one of a kind, with none of her peers shading the way she does, making it possible for some of the most simple images to be beautiful because of their simple yet effective composition and framing. The simplistic paneling makes short but beautiful moments as Ichikawa's artistic talents are able to perfectly create atmosphere, making H&K one of the most ambient series out there. And if you know me, I love that ambience. Her storytelling is just so atmospheric that subtlety, which is harder to present in manga, comes across beautifully well. Foss's expressions and mannerisms are difficult to achieve, and yet they simply are achieved, perfectly presenting the changes within their personality and identity, even beyond just the simple changes in their dialogue and appearance, making it feel like we've changed protagonists with every new phase of the story when we're really watching the crumble of one's original self. I am so shocked that I had never even talked about this in my first review of the series since it's such a staple of the manga, but Ichikawa's abstract body horror perfectly highlights some of the series' biggest strengths. As a big Cronenberg guy, Ichikawa's transformative depictions from the more blatant to the simplest of changes shows a terror and identity struggle that highlights key themes of the series, and adds on to one of the main genres that this series fits under, which is psychological thriller. We know it's a fantasy and somewhat science fiction story, but the psychological aspects and the tense gripping thriller that we explore is what made the series for me, leaving me with so much to contemplate, fear, and anticipate the more I kept on reading. Even as we grew to the more somber, reflective final chapters, that transformative take was never removed, consistently showing off Foss's change, decay, and growth. I never got bored with the series in its short but meaningful and contemplative run. Every piece of art that stemmed with it has kept me invested, with some of the most beautiful fan community works I've seen. The anime is a wonderful piece that showcases the beauty and atmosphere perfectly, and there's just so much to keep me in love with it, even if a season 2 won't actually happen. The final chapters brought up a lot of discussion, but I truly believe that Ichikawa ended the story perfectly on a contemplative, reflective note that leaves you with a lot to think about and cherish. With all the tragedy and harsh truths faced, we're finally offered a second chance. A chance at happiness. A chance to no longer live as our mistakes and instead appreciate the beauties of the vast universe that holds us, with ones that we love and ones that love us. Even through all of the suffering, we are never truly alone. We don't need to force ourselves to act for the sake of others. We don't need to change ourselves so much for the sake of acceptance. We can simply be who we were always meant to be, the person we were born as, the composition we were always made of. We found our people, and we have found our home. A paradise away from humanity, away from that suffering. A place where a potential future can thrive. With all the suffering Foss had gone through and the potential end they could have faced, we see them finally get a chance to be the Foss we love again. That sweet, innocent gem that just wanted to be useful, and to go on adventures. The series ends beautifully on a surprisingly optimistic and hopeful note, appreciating the small things in a grandiose cosmic scope. Ichikawa perfectly managed to wrap the prettiest package of a series I've come to experience, and I don't believe we will ever see another story like this ever again. One that I've revisited multiple times in such a short span of 2 years, and one that I will frequently revisit in years to come. This story has impacted me in the way I view art as a whole, and how I've come to terms with my own identity and self. Houseki no Kuni is a story I'll never forget, one I'll always appreciate, with so much to love that I can't help but call it the perfect series for me. I look forward to whatever Ichikawa plans to work on in the future, and if there's anything relating to this series such as the anime put out again, I will be there day one. Thank you Haruko Ichikawa for this beautiful story, for your beautiful artwork, your frustrating schedule, and for affecting my life with your art in a way that few stories have managed to do. You've inspired me in ways I'll never forget, and the impact you've had on my life is impossible to fully articulate in sentences. All I can say is thank you, and farewell, Land of the Lustrous. If you're a fan of Houseki no Kuni and liked this video, feel free to like it and share it with other people. I have some other videos on the series on the channel from a while ago, but this is probably going to be my last video on the series, at least for a while. I do want to revisit it and talk about it some more in the future, but for now, I think this is a good note to end off at. And again, if you did enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel because I make videos like this all the time. We are reaching very close to 10,000 subscribers, and I think we can reach that by the end of the year. And I would be very grateful if we did. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time. Have a good day.